The rewards for being in a calorie deficit. I'm Tony. Welcome back to Street Boss Strategies.
That's the anthem. Grinding while they snacking. Counting every macro. Yeah, I'm fully tracking. Pants getting loose. Scale singing out soprano. Future cheat meals big. Thinking ragu or cubano.
Today we're talking about the upsides of being in a calorie deficit and trying to lose weight and get in shape. I usually make and release these videos at the end of the year or the beginning of the year because all of the New Year's resolutions usually revolve around people trying to lose weight and get in shape. But it's early April right now for me, so I find myself in a very familiar situation that I go through every year. Now that's April for me, but it could be whatever time of year for you. That situation is where you're a little ways into having started a diet, so now you're in a constant calorie deficit. And you're starting to feel it from a hunger perspective, which essentially means you're starting to be hungry all the time. And that can be draining, difficult to go through. So today's video is for people that if you've never really committed to being on a diet, being in a calorie deficit on a regular basis before, hopefully you can learn from this and it will help you. Or if you've tried to be on a diet before in a calorie deficit and you've never really succeeded, hopefully this could help you as well. Or for anyone who's currently in a calorie deficit and you're struggling, right? You're really starting to feel it and you're starting to think about, is this worth it? Maybe I should give up. Hopefully this might be able to help you as well. So let's talk about being in a calorie deficit, but the gratifying rewards that can come from it instead of, focusing on all the stuff that makes you want to give up. I figured I would give you my example of how I go about doing all of this and dealing with the hunger and rewarding myself and making it easier on myself. I would tell you how I do it, and then hopefully you can glean some advice from that and figure out your version that works best for you. So for me, since I live in Michigan, I hate the cold. I hate the winter. Being cold makes me want to eat. For me, I consider the dead of winter to be January and February. So when I eat normally or I bulk, in January and February is when I do it. When I start to lean out, whatever you want to call it, that's when I start to be in my daily calorie deficit. And I find that for most people, when you're in the first couple weeks of starting that calorie deficit, it usually doesn't affect you. It's not until a couple weeks in when your body starts to adapt to being in that lower calorie area that you start to really notice the hunger. And then as time goes on, you notice it more and more. So for me, come this time of year, I'm starting to get into that area where I'm just hungry all the time. It's not a desperate hunger. It's not starvation. It's just the kind of hunger where it's annoying and nagging to the point because you feel like if I just ate a decent sized meal, I would be decently satiated and thus I wouldn't be hungry anymore, so I wouldn't be annoyed by the constant hunger. And that's fine to do, eating a clean, decent-sized, calorie-sized meal is perfectly fine to do. The problem is, since you're constantly hungry at this stage, that would mean you'd have to, on a constant and regular basis, be having that decent-sized meal. And it's all about the calories that are in that meal, right? And if you have enough over and over again, then at the end of the day, you're not going to be in a calorie deficit anymore. And I'm going to eat how much the calories are going to be in that meal so that I know at the end of the day, I was in a calorie deficit for that day. But when I'm a month plus into being in a constant daily calorie deficit, that's when the hunger starts to build and I really start to feel it. And for me, it's even worse because, like I said, the cold makes me want to eat, but I love hot weather, warm, sunny weather. I love it. Being warm makes me want to be active, and being active really reduces my hunger. As well as just in general, hot weather, warm weather is an appetite suppressor for me as well. But in April, it's like, okay, spring isn't here yet. It hasn't sprung. It's not starting to get warm yet. Winter is pretty much done, but it's certainly not warm yet. So this is the most difficult time of year because it's still cold, but the weather's starting to be nice and I'm starting to be constantly hungry. So whenever that time starts to happen for you, when you feel like, okay, I've been in a calorie deficit for a while, I know I'm starting to lose weight, but because my body is starting to adapt, now I'm starting to get that constant hunger. How do I deal with that? For me, I find that having rewards and reminders of why you're doing it, why it means so much, why it's so important to you, that can really help to get you through those difficult times where you feel like it would just be so easy to eat right now. It would take this hunger away, at least temporarily. But you know that if you have too many of those meals to satiate that hunger, you're not going to be in a deficit anymore. So how do you face that problem down? How do you not eat or eat very little when it's so tempting to eat much more than you know you should? Let's get into keeping those rewards in mind to make that process much easier on yourself. I've been doing this year after year for decades. And as time goes on and my body evolves, I've refined and improved this process many, many times. For me, I'm the kind of person where I love food, probably more so than the average person even. So when I feel hungry, it hits me more and affects me more probably than the average person. To a degree, to a point, I like being hungry because it's a constant reminder of like what I'm doing, that I'm intentionally in a calorie deficit. I'm intentionally trying to do this difficult thing, which is cut down body fat, lose weight over time. And being hungry is kind of like a constant reminder, like you're actually doing it. You're actually accomplishing it. The problem is there's that invisible line where if I'm too hungry for too long, I'll cross that invisible line where I'll go from I like this hunger to like, now I'm just hangry. And I've found over these years that one of the best, most efficient ways to deal with that hunger from a psychological perspective is to be reminding yourself as much and often as you at least need to why you're doing this, why it's so important, and all the good things that can come of it. So basically you have the obvious effects of like, okay, you're in a calorie deficit all the time, which means you're losing weight and you're getting in shape. That's probably the biggest main reason why you're doing it in the first place. The problem is that losing weight and getting in shape aspect is so small. The problem is that losing weight and getting in shape process is so long and it's so gradual that, you don't see the results of it like on the scale or in the mirror for weeks. And even the results that you see, they're not big dramatic changes from like day to day. They're just small ones over time. So while it's gratifying and it's reward of being in this calorie deficit, being hungry all the time, that's the part where you really have to be patient on a day-to-day basis for it, even though it is an actual reward. When you've been in a calorie deficit for that day, there's the idea of like, okay, there are some people who never have to eat healthily or never have to exercise or work out because they're just genetically gifted to be lean all the time, no matter what happens. Those people are rare, but we, of course, are very jealous of them because for us, being in this calorie deficit every day, at least, where you're in enough of a calorie deficit on a daily basis, when you know for that day that you have been in a calorie deficit, you can really take pride in that, be proud of that, because it's something that's difficult to do. I mean, look around you. Did you see most Americans? You see how most of them are at least overweight, if not flat out obese or more? That's because they don't care. They are not putting in the time and effort to plan meals, be careful about how and when they eat. We live in a culture and a society where food is so easy to get, calories are so easy to consume, and their taste so good that for us, we should be proud when we set this goal to be in this deficit and then on a daily basis, we accomplish that because it's doing something difficult that you look around, most people aren't doing, they don't care. You're intentionally forcing yourself to do something that you don't need to do. It'd be much easier for you to just eat and gain weight. But instead, you have intentionally decided, I'm going to be in this calorie deficit. And it's going to get to a point where it starts to suck. It feels like it sucks on a daily basis more than it's gratifying. But you still continue to do it anyway because you have a goal that you're trying to accomplish. And the day, on a day-to-day basis where you're like, okay, today I know for sure I was in a calorie deficit. At the end of that day, you should be proud. That should be your daily kind of reward, is knowing that you did something that you didn't have to do, that most people don't do because it's too difficult for them, but you did it. Doesn't sound like much when you say it, but when you feel it and you really internalize it and really allow yourself to be proud of it, it really does help you to get, psychologically, to get through that hunger and face that hunger on a day-to-day basis. Lastly, and probably most importantly for me, and hopefully, and I'm guessing at least for many people, is when you think of the idea of, I guess, what most people refer to as cheat meals, right? I don't call them that. It just doesn't work for me psychologically, because I think of a cheat meals mean you are scheduled to have that meal on a regular basis, on once a week you have a cheat meal. So that's just not what I refer to it as. For me, I don't really call them anything. I just think of them as reward meals. Because like I said, I love food, but it's not just food. I love junk food. I love fast food. I love, terrible high calorie, empty calorie kinds of foods. That's my favorite kind of food. But, during this time of year, I rarely ever have them. But when I do, I really look forward to them, and I also completely savor them and value them and look at them as a reward for being in a calorie deficit so consistently for so long. Now, when you say cheat meal, a lot of problems that people fall into is people will be on a super strict diet that they hate, and then when they have their cheat meal, they overindulge, and then the key part is they feel bad about it. They regret having that meal. And if you regret your cheat meal, that can be very detrimental to your diet, because that regret makes you feel like you did something bad, and because you did something bad, you're a bad person. And the more you feel like that, the more you're going to want to give up and just quit the whole diet altogether. My experience has taught me that the more you can learn and teach yourself how to actually value that cheat meal, so that when you have it, you actually savor it and don't feel bad about having it. For me, that really helps getting through those stretches of being hungry all the time. And I think the key to not regretting those meals is to really feel like you deserve them, like you've earned them. That's one of the reasons I don't like to have them on a regularly scheduled basis. Because it's do I actually deserve to have that meal this weekend? If Saturday is my cheat meal day, do I deserve to have that meal on Saturday? For me, you shouldn't have the cheat meal unless you feel like you need it and you deserve it. So that way, if you genuinely feel that way when you have the cheat meal, then you can actually savor it, actually enjoy it, and there won't be any regret for it. So for me, those meals happen maybe once or twice a month. But I think another good key is you don't just have the meal just any time. You don't just have it just because you can have it. You don't have it just because it's Saturday night and this is supposed to be your cheat meal time. I find it much more helpful to coincide those cheat meals with certain special events or holidays. And those events only happen spring, summer, once or twice a month. And so leading up to them, I'm very strict on how I know, and I'm for sure that I'm in a calorie deficit on a very consistent basis leading up to that event. And then when that meal comes, to look forward to. So the more stuff I have to look forward to, that means that requires more planning. I have plenty of fantasy vacations planned in my mind, just because it's fun to do, because maybe one day I'll be able to do that thing. So when it comes to meals and those cheat meals, I love to plan them ahead of time, weeks, if not months ahead of time. Where am I going to get it from? Debating between options and thinking about it, and, knowing that on a day-to-day basis, okay, I'm in a calorie deficit today. I was in a calorie deficit yesterday, and it's all leading to, this great food I'm going to have on this great occasion, and I'm really going to enjoy it because I earned it and deserved it. For me, that's maybe the biggest way that I can cope and reward myself from being in that calorie deficit all the time. But it would be all useless if after that meal I regretted it, I felt bad, I felt like a bad person. I felt like I did something bad. If you can get rid of that and really savor it, really deserve it, being able to reward yourself, not only do you not regret it afterwards, but after that meal, I feel like I'm ready to sort of start again, start that process again, get to the next holiday, get to the next special occasion so that I can have that kind of meal over again. But I have to earn getting there first, because earning it is what makes it so savory. So it's the opposite of having regret. It's like, I can't wait till tomorrow to be in a calorie deficit again, because that'll mean being on the journey again, getting to the next great, amazing meal. And also, if you're in a calorie deficit, the vast majority of the time leading up to that meal, a lot of people are scared and concerned, like, oh, if I eat a whole pizza in this one meal, that'll destroy all the progress I've made over the last how many weeks or months or whatever it is. It's like, no, you have to let go of that. When you are in such a restricted calorie deficit for such a long time, once you take in that huge amount of food, all of those calories all at once in that one meal, your body goes through a refeeding process where, because, it's so desperate for that large amount of calories, it will use all of the positive, good vitamins, minerals, nutrition from that food to refeed and sort of recuperate your body. And then all of the bad stuff, all of the fats and oils and all the unnecessary empty calorie stuff, especially if you're in conjunction to eating less, you're also exercising on a regular, consistent basis, your body is going to not want to hang on to that unnecessary junk. It's going to want to process it through your system and get it out of your system. A lot of people have this idea of if I put my body in starvation mode, once I eat, then my body's going to take it all and you hold on to it as fat. Everything I eat is going to be held on to as fat because my body's in starvation mode. So it's going to hold and keep as everything that I put into it. But there's two factors here. One is the nutrition factor, which is your body is in a rhythm, a cycle of using, when you're in that calorie deficit and you're only taking in a very strict amount of calories, your body's forced itself into a mode and it has to really delineate what are the good, positive, actually nutrition dense and rich calories to use to keep you healthy and what is not, and to keep what's good and get rid of what's not. It doesn't just hang on to everything just because if you're in actual starvation mode, meaning you don't eat ever except for one meal a week, then yes, of course. But if you're still eating on a regular basis, you're just doing it in a way where the calories are much lower than what you used to consume. Now your body's in a sort of efficiency mode. Keep the good stuff, waste out the bad stuff. But then the second part to that is when you pair that nutrition with exercise, now you're expediting that process. Now you're teaching and training your body. Keep everything that's good and nutritious, that's going to get me fit and keep me in shape, and process out all of the bad, negative, empty calories. Maybe not all of them, but way more than if you just ate a normal diet and then your body would hang on to much more then, because it's not in an efficiency mode. You're just I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and it's every time it's 1,000 calories and you're not in any kind of deficit. If you're not in a deficit, then you're not being efficient. So your body just, holds on to a average amount of calories. But when you're in that, calorie deficit, especially paired with exercise, now you're training your body, keep what's good, get rid of what I don't need. So when you have those cheat meals, don't be afraid everything you eat is just going to immediately turn to fat. That's not the way it goes. So you don't have to worry about that. And that should help with you not regretting having those meals, thus making being in this calorie deficit that much more palatable. Those are the gratifying rewards and upsides to being in a calorie deficit. I hope anybody that sees this video, it helps them to deal with having that sort of constant hunger and not letting that hunger conquer you and make you want to give up being in that deficit. If you did find this video helpful at all, then please subscribe to the channel. And down in the comments, let us know, what do you do to deal with being in that calorie deficit and feeling that hunger on a constant basis? But before you comment, make sure you hit that thanks button down below, because not only does hitting that thanks button highlight any comment you make, but it also directly supports the channel. So for anyone that does hit that thanks button, I genuinely appreciate it. As always, like, share, comment like I said, make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever any video goes live on this channel. And until then, see you guys next week.
Delayed gratification, call it mental elevation. Burning cows on the daily, it's the true dedication. From salads to steaks, my rewards are divine. Double chocolate pancakes at the finish line.